Welcome to another episode of Home Theater Tours, and we have been away for a while, and that's because DJ is working on building a new house, and he's got two podcasts, and he would do all the editing. So normally, that's who would do the editing. This time around, we've got a little bit different show for you. Robert Davis has joined us. He sent me an email a little while ago saying, "Hey, are you still doing home theater tours?" And I explained to him what I just explained to you, but his theater is so beautiful. I said, let's try and do it without all the fancy editing that DJ does. So, Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Robert and I and Braden have exchanged emails over the years, and he's been following the show for quite some time. But then, so we're going to do a little bit different. I asked Robert to go through the theater like you would a walking tour. And so we have a video of it, and we will run the video, we'll pause it, and we'll let Robert describe what's going on. So without further ado, let's get started here.
Okay, so at this point, this is the upstairs area of our house. As you probably already saw at the very beginning, as it was paused there, I have some movie memorabilia on display, pretty much throughout the entire house. But that 6-scale bat wing, a lot of people like because it's suspended over you as you walk in through the entryway. But for me, this is probably the more interesting area because it gets you closest to our theater.
Yeah, I really like this bar. I'll tell you, I would imagine it's a great place to meet with people before you go in and watch a movie and just hang out.
It is. And the bar on the left-hand side, we've had that since around 2007 timeframe. I bought that in St. Vith in Belgium when I was stationed in Germany. And that bar has been fantastic. We've traveled with it to multiple states throughout my time in the military, and the wet bar to the right there was just part of the house, and it worked out really well to kind of have both fixtures there.
Yeah, very cool. What is that? I don't think that's a dinosaur head, is it? Or what is that? Is that a Velociraptor head?
It is. It's from a company that no longer exists called Chronicle Collectibles, and it's a life-size raptor head from Jurassic Park.
Very cool. So now we're walking in. Oh, it looks like it's a multi-purpose room here.
A little bit. Right now we have just some like a workout bike and a medicine ball type thing in the corner. So we do use that a little bit for working out, but eventually the plan is just to take that out of the room and maybe put a couch or something in this area, this loft area. When we bought the house, there was a pool table put in there and a kind of an unsightly fan, and so we got rid of all that and redid the flooring. And yeah, so right now it houses the equipment, and I think you can see in the corner I've got my discs. I still collect a sizable amount of physical media. Despite buying a Kaleidescape, I don't know what people were saying when they're like, "Oh, you can get rid of physical media." There's still plenty of things that aren't on Kaleidescape that I have to pick up on physical. And yeah, on the right-hand side there, that's a dog alien from Alien 3, another kind of cool thing. And then
pause it there. All right, that's a good spot to pause. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get a glimpse. I've got a life-size Terminator from Terminator 2 from Sideshow Collectibles in the room. So a lot of people like that. And I had to put up a little, what do you call it, stanchion and a rope, because the way its guns point out, it's so easy because people... And we've had that since California, so around 2010, 2011 timeframe. And everywhere we've moved, you get somebody come to the house, like a repairman or something like that. Everybody always wants to get a photo with it. The danger zone is that you get too close. There's like these small little plastic tabs sticking out from the guns, and those are so delicate. So got some rope to stop people from getting too close to it.
Yeah, and if they're going to do it, it's a conscious decision to be careful. So, all right, very cool. And here, I guess we're going to see your projector. Oh, first, I forgot. We're going to take a look at this.
Yeah, so this was a plaque that JVC gave out to people that bought the JVC DLA-25LTD projector. They only did a run of 25 of them. And to commemorate that, they did a plaque as well. So when I bought the projector, I knew that they were going to include a plaque. I wasn't quite sure what it would look like, but I thought it was cool, so I put it on the door, and just, yeah, it does the number and the edition size.
I would absolutely do that too.
And then looking right here, I've got the AC Infinity thermostat, and it also controls an exhaust fan. You're looking right now basically at my hush box. Had never done a hush box before, never even thought about it. And I do remember from previous iterations of my home theater that fan noise kind of bothered me. So I was like, well, why don't, you know, is there a possibility to do something? And then I worked with our handyman, and we went through a couple iterations of how to do this, because I researched what I could online, but this projector was a little bigger than some of the other builds that I'd seen. So it's like, well, okay. And so yeah, so this is the result of a lot of trial and error and months of work and drawings and back and forth. And
yeah, that's cool. So you got it insulated. No, that's not insulation. That's stuff to keep the sound deadened, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And you got those fans. So very cool. It's outside the theater, which helps a lot too.
It does. It does. And, you know, you don't think projectors are going to be that loud, but again, just in previous iterations where I've had the projector in the room, I've noticed it's like, well, you know, it would be really, really nice to put it outside the room. There's just that little bit of noise. And I could still, you know, if it's real, nothing's on in the room, there's no sound, I can still hear the projector a little bit. But when my audio calibrator came in, he says, man, this is one of the quietest rooms. So
yeah, I was going to say, you're probably the only one who could hear it, because I guarantee you anybody you invite in is not hearing it. You're listening for it. That's why you're hearing it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Opted not to go for glass. I mean, you'll see it here in a second, but we didn't put glass in front of the projector just because that'd just be one more thing to worry about. Optical distortion that I'll have to work through. So the idea was if we put that Kilomat stuff, sound dampening in the box, and I did a lot of trial and error with the fans to figure out, you know, what speed would be enough to keep air flowing in there, but not induce a lot of extra sound. And that's the result of it.
Very cool. And so this is your equipment rack outside the room, but in this room, you know what? Some people like to completely have it hidden. Now it's out of the room. I like it because you can kind of show it off. And let's be honest, we kind of want to show off our gear.
All right, that's exactly it. When we were in California, again, when we first started talking years ago, we actually were lucky to have a room off to the side of we had a loft areas where we had our theater, and off to the side was just a very small room that almost seemed purpose-built in a way for theater equipment, although I don't think that was the intent. And that was my first experience to have the equipment in a separate room. And when we bought this house, I thought, well, this is maybe something we want to do here. We talked about maybe walling off that section that you see here. But then you've got to worry about cooling it, right? And just a whole host of other issues. So decided that let's just display stuff. And to your point, indeed, I'd be showing people into the room anyway if they came over.
That's exactly right. You're gonna, I want to see the Kaleidescape. Well, what kind of receiver you got? It's all out here, and yeah, you've got wires behind it. They look pretty neat as far as I'm concerned. Mine don't look that neat at all. And you've got a hardwood floor, so it's easy to clean and get the dust bunnies behind it away. So I think it's a very clean way to do this type of install.
Thank you. And I did actually fret about the wires as I was filming this. I was like, it's not the cleanest. So I appreciate you saying that you think it looks pretty clean. But it got to a point too where I was worried that, I could probably, buy longer wires and like wrap everything all nice together. But then I start worrying about, I've gotten the theater to this point, everything's set up right. I'd hate to disconnect something by accident and then spend, days trying to troubleshoot. Well, what did I disconnect, or what's not working right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. And then I believe you focus in on your equipment here.
So what you're seeing, or what you'll see in this whole home theater tour here, is a culmination of years and years of building bits and bobs of a home theater. And ever since even my first duty assignment in the Air Force, I had a very, very modest home theater with some Bose speakers and a Sony DirectView HD TV, and that was kind of it. And then when I moved to Belgium, I bought my first speaker system, and that speaker system will be in the room we'll see here in a minute. But what a lot of the components, especially the power supply components down as we started the video here, those are pieces that I've had with me since Belgium, since 2003, 2004 timeframe, and they're monster power, and they work really great. I bought into them because they talked about how they can prevent noise from appearing in your speaker systems, as far as like cleaning up electricity. And the first box we showed was actually a voltage stabilizer, and that supposedly is better for your components long term. I don't know. I bought into all the marketing for that stuff years ago, and it's just worked really well, so I keep using it. And then I have on the rack right above the second power center, that's the D-Box HEMC. It controls my D-Box chairs. I've been a big proponent of D-Box over the years, and we can talk about that more here in a little bit. Above it, I've got a PS4, and I've got two Harmony adapters, one for the PS4 and one for a PS3, as far as it adapts the IR signal to Bluetooth, so you can control the PS4 or PS3. I've got a Oppo 93 or BDP 93 with a region-free mod above that. And then I have another Oppo, I'm sorry, the Oppo 93 is underneath the PS4. Above the PS4 is a Oppo UDP 203, their 4K player, the last one they made. I wish I could have gone back in time and bought like 3 or 4 more of those, because
I heard they're going for a lot on eBay.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, did you keep the first Oppo because it was region free?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And I've since read that you can do region free for the 203, but the 93 has been working just fine for me, and so I'm gonna keep using it until it.
Why mess with it? Who knows? You don't want to break the UHD player, because nobody's gonna fix it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a pity, right? Like that they were making such good players, and then it just wasn't, viable business model for them. I get it. But,
yeah, and I have the UHD player. I have 2 of them, and I love them. They decided that they were not making the amount of money or the effort required, and all the licensing that was required. It was just easier for them to make phones, which is, I think, what their market was prior to getting into these players. But yeah, that was the best players out there, and at the time the cost was really good. Now obviously you can get a UHD player for $1.50, but well, actually like $80-$90, but it's nothing like the Oppo, because the Oppo, you could even use it as an up converter, which I really like. And so it just, there's not another box out there, and that's why a lot of people don't want to get rid of them. I've had people offer me money to buy mine.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah. And actually, I bonded with a friend of ours, or I met this guy after a John Carpenter concert a few years ago. John Carpenter, the famous horror director, he's been doing music concerts of his music, and then he makes new music now as well. And I was at a bar with my buddy after the concert, and I don't know how we got into this conversation, but I started talking to this guy and his wife, and Oppo came up. And as soon as Oppo came up and he realized he had one, he knew the value of it, and I did too, obviously. We've become really good friends since then. It was just funny, out of that one conversation of Oppo, unity, that you make a friend.
Isn't that weird? Yeah, very true. All right, so what kind of receiver do you have? It's a Denon?
Yeah, it's a Denon 38 or X3800H, and it's fine for what I need right now. I will admit that I'm looking to upgrade to a Storm Mark III ISP 24-channel processor in the future, or probably like the next 6 to 10 months. But that's partly because I plan to expand the number of channels I have in the theater.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beauty of this setup. Basically, all home theaters, you can get started, just get started. You know what I mean? You don't have to have everything in here. You could get the projector, get a receiver, get a player, and you're good to go. And then over time, you can upgrade. So you don't have to dump all that money in immediately. So I like the way you're going on this. I like this receiver. The 3800 is a very capable receiver. But when you get into the room, and when the viewers see what's in the room, I can understand why you might want to upgrade.
Yeah, I actually had someone that did some calibration for me some years ago tell me that, one of the tricks about receivers is, he said, or buying a processor, because before, when I first got my speaker system, it came with a proprietary processor, and after a certain point, decided I wanted to upgrade so I could get take advantage of the newer sound formats that were coming on at the time, like DTS HD and Dolby True HD. And he said, you know, there's no reason for you to go out and buy a processor that's $5,000 or $10,000. He said, just go buy a budget receiver that does all this stuff and then use it as a processor. And that was kind of eye-opening and wallet saving at the time when he told me that. So I've kind of kept that mentality for quite some time.
All right, and then we'll just wrap up the equipment with the Kaleidescape, and you also have the Lumigen. Let's talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, the Lumigen, actually I bought directly from Kris Deering, and he was great because not only does he sell Lumigen products, but he'll set it up for you before it arrives. So you tell him what sources you're using and what your projector is or display device or whatever, and he'll make sure that it's all working the way it needs to before it even arrives to you. So one of the interesting things, you know, you plug it in and it's ready to go. I used to have a DVDO iScan Duo, which I just recently sold. Yeah. I knew that thing inside and out. I knew all the menus and everything. I'll be honest with the Lumigen, I know very little about it. I haven't really studied it just because it works. And I just, you know, Kris showed me a few things, a few tricks for what I need for my setup, and I'm just kind of happy with that. And I haven't played around with it the way, again, it's just funny. Like sometimes when you don't have a lot of gear or something like that, you learn everything about something, and then after a while, you just don't care anymore. It's like, well, I just want it to work.
True. That is so true. It's like, okay, I was interested in that 6 months ago, and now it's like, okay, whatever. The next new shiny thing to go look at.
Right, 100%.
But and then also the thing, so it came set up, but also your calibrated the projector too. So it's everything is corrected to be get you exactly what you need on the screen.
Yeah. So the part of the deal also with that particular projector wasn't just they give you a plaque, but JVC had a deal with Kris Deering that he would personally calibrate every one of those projectors. So he had basically told him the screen size I was going to put it with, and he calibrated the projector and then sent it out to me. And then as a follow-up, he was doing a tour a few months ago in the Dallas area, and I had him actually come by because I was having some problems just getting the projector leveled. In the hush box, you know, you don't have as much ease of movement as far as like trying to get to the legs and getting everything lined up. And I was just losing my mind trying to get it lined up. And when I found out he was coming to town, I'm like, Kris, can you just come by and, you know, get it right? And then you can check out my other sources and let me know that everything is as right as it should be.
That is so cool. That, you know, it costs money, but at least you get something for it. Now, what is your experience with the Kaleidescape? I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Kaleidescape. I've never owned one. That's probably why I'm not the biggest fan, but that's simply because I didn't. Not that I'm not the fan. It just, I think that there's other things that I can use to kind of get close to a Kaleidescape. DJ and I have had this discussion many times, but you have one. So what's your opinion of it?
I like it. I feel that it's probably overpriced for what it is. But it offers, you know, for instance, like the Bond movies, if you want all 25 Bond movies in 4K, it's the only option right now because those haven't hit disc. Let me see, like the recent Rocky IV redo, like the re-edit Stallone did that came out in theaters. MGM did a very limited pressing of the UHD for that, and if you didn't get it at the time, then you're not going to find that disc. Whereas it's available on Kaleidescape, no problem at all. Give me 1 second, I guess I haven't moved long enough. There we go. So there's certain films in there that it's nice that, you know, you can find them on Kaleidescape where a disc perhaps doesn't exist.
Very cool. Yeah.
I find that I know we had talked when I showed we talked about the discs on the other corner of the wall there, but I find myself still buying discs. I like a lot of the Shout Factory releases, stuff that Vinegar Syndrome puts out, Arrow Video, and sometimes, you know, they have exclusive licenses where that stuff just doesn't get put out. And of course, the Criterion Collection, Kaleidescape doesn't have access to that. So it's a mixed bag. I guess I can understand your love-hate relationship with it. I guess I thought when I bought it that I would have access to everything. Like, there wouldn't be library restrictions and whatnot. I do like the fact that with my particular setup that it offers me the best quality available, and for really long movies, you know, there's been obviously a lot of YouTube videos or comparisons where people say, you know, look at the file sizes and say, hey, there's more than a 10% difference of the file size on Kaleidescape versus the actual disc. And I know Disney cheaps out on a lot of the discs that they put out, you know, trying to cram a really large movie on a 66 gigabyte platter versus 100 gigabyte. So from a quality aspect, I'm all about chasing like what's the best quality, and I like having it as an option. And again, for my theater, it makes sense, but it's expensive for what it is.
Yeah, so I get it, and that is nice. You do have options. That's really what it boils down to. I don't have options. You've got options.
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, someone out there, they always say, oh, if you're a movie fan, you should get a Kaleidescape. Well, you should, I guess, but just be aware of what you're getting into, that it doesn't have necessarily maybe all the releases that you're looking for. And then, yeah, sometimes there'll be things that there'll be a disc out for a while, and it's like, well, why don't they have that on HDR or 4K? It's only an HD. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. And it's some kind of licensing thing. Also, that they're under restrictions sometimes for what they can announce. Like, for instance, Purple Rain UHD 4K came out a few weeks ago. The day it came out on disc, suddenly Kaleidescape dropped it on their server. It's like, oh, well, that would have been nice to have known that. So I didn't order that disc.
Yeah, exactly.
So mixed bag.
All right. So you were looking at your exhaust. Did you have to run this all the way out through your roof?
Not through the roof, just into the attic. So in the attic, I have another AC Infinity fan. Might be a T7. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it's sucking air. We actually, I think at the end of this video, I show you another part back in the wet bar area. Above the wet bar, there's a plate, an air plate or duct plate that's sucking air into that fan, and then it's blowing it back into the projector just for active cooling. Going into it. So yeah, I was really
so that's not the exhaust. You're blowing air in. I got you.
Yeah. The exhaust is above the thermostat. So it's two little fans. So that's sucking in there. And then that's just me trying to cover up the wire as best I can. I just threw like,
I use those all over the place.
So, here we go. Yeah. See that little air duct right there? So that's sucking in cool air and then blowing it back through into the hush box. Yeah. And I had to research, where does the JVC suck in its cool air, or where is it trying to pull air from? And I'm trying to design or work with my handyman to design that just right to make it work, because he'd never built a hush box. He thought it was a really cool project, but he's like, man, I've never done this before.
All right, so here we go. What everyone's been waiting for. Let's go into this gorgeous room. So this is just beautiful. And so you've got seating for 6, but we'll just let you describe what we're looking at as you go through.
Thank you. Yeah. We've got seating for 6 here, and then on the walls here, people ask, are those speakers? Like, no, it's acoustic treatment panels from a company called Vicoustic. They're based out of Portugal, and they actually did a sound analysis of the room prior to me ordering these panels. And I thought their sound analysis was really interesting. It didn't cost very much for the analysis, and ultimately they're hoping, I think, to sell your product, right?
Yeah.
But it worked out great. They've got 3 different types of panels in here. In the corners, they're basically bass traps, and then the panels that have the lines through them are called Wavewoods. And I don't remember the name of the other panel they have there, but they basically tell you, if you put these panels in these places in the room, this will be the ideal sound environment for what you're trying to achieve. And so the lights that you see up are custom-made lights. They're styled after what you would see at the Alamo Drafthouse chain theaters. I tried to buy one from Alamo direct because I actually do some contract work for them, and the ones that they have are networked, and I didn't need that, and that was like an additional cost, pretty hefty cost for what I needed. So actually on eBay got some film reels from Ukraine, and then I realized that the Alamo ones are using a light fixture from Home Depot. So I worked with a buddy of mine that he had another friend that was a machinist, and he just welded out, cut out the centers of the film reels. We stuck the light fixture on them, and the rest is history. So I'm not really big on having flourishes like that in the room. I know a lot of people like to have movie posters and stuff in there, but I'm trying not to detract from the experience, and I want to have like the best image. I don't want to have a lot of reflections and whatnot, but this just felt like a good addition to the room, and everyone loves it. I love it too.
Oh, I agree. It looks beautiful. It's just the right amount, I think, because it doesn't take too much away. And then as soon as the lights go dark, obviously you'll see it when the screen gets a little bit bright, but it's not going to take your eye away from the screen. Yeah,
and I don't really notice any reflections or anything like that. Yeah. The curtain that you see there is actually a curtain that we had when we were in California to close off the loft area, because the loft area had like open rails out to the living room, and I didn't want all that sunlight coming in. So the guy that calibrated our projector and stuff at the time is like, well, I have some curtain here that I can sell you, and I know another place that has more of it. So this is just a reuse of a past theater. As I've said, everything's just kind of been building in stages. The chairs that you see in this particular image here are the original chairs I had from when we lived in California. And actually, I'm take that back. In Germany, we had those. And then I bought D-box seats when we moved to California, which is now the first row. The chairs look the same, but they're slightly different. They're different models, both from the same company called Fortress Seating. And on this particular image here, you can see the projector did a cutout, tried to cut it as tight as possible, just so we could, fit the projector in and then have it not induce any more noise into the room than it needed to be.
Yeah.
And
yeah, like I said, you're probably the only one who's going to hear that noise.
Yeah. Oh, the curtain. Another reason we did the curtain there was the doors themselves have just a little bit of light coming through. Otherwise, and we tried to work as hard as we could to minimize that, but the curtain just seals it off, and that makes it. This projector, when it goes dark, it goes dark. I had a friend over the other day, and she said she'd never been in a room that dark in her life when the light went out. So,
well, also the curtains will act as a noise abatement as well. It'll help absorb a lot of the sound, so it won't bounce off of the door. Now, I'm sure you could have put some panels on the door as well, but this kind of makes you don't have to do that.
Yeah, it did help. And then the speaker system itself, it's an Atlantic Technology 8200 system. And I had every one of these shipped to me individually when I was stationed in Belgium. That was a 6-month process because they use the postal system, and the postal system delivers it to the military, and then the military has to wait for there to be space available. And it was a long process to get all those in hand. And then I added recently 4 additional ceiling speakers that were matched, or from Atlantic Technology too, but they said that, like, these are the ceiling speakers that would match this particular system.
Now, when you were in the military, how long were you going to be stationed there? Because I mean, it's going to take 6 months to get it, and if you're going to be gone another 6 months after that, it just kind of, well, I guess you would have them for 6 months, but was your typical deployment a couple years?
Well, when I was stationed in Belgium, that was a 4-year. Well, it turned out to be about a 4-year assignment. So yeah, I did this towards the beginning of my my tour there. Okay. So, and then I went to Germany, which sounds so far away, but it was only an hour and a half down the road. Yeah.
All right. So here's another shot at those chairs you were talking about. Probably the most traveled chairs in any home theater.
Yeah, they've definitely seen some miles. And the D-box seats, I was really worried about them because we had to move houses in Virginia. A trend in my last few years in the military. We've never bought a house before. We've always rented. And the last couple duty assignments I've been to, we've had landlords decide, hey, we're going to sell the house you're in. Time to get out. And we're like, what? And so we've had to move at our own expense when that happens, because the military will only move you once to a location while you're assigned there. Yeah. And the move we did in Virginia, when that happened to us, our movers we procured personally beat the hell out of those seats. And I was so worried. I could hear creaking in them that wasn't there before. And fortunately, it was almost like magic when they got disassembled and reassembled here when we moved to Texas. The creaking is gone. They're working fine. And it's
very good. All right, so those are your Atmos speakers, your vent.
Yep.
So let's see, I think you've got a .4 Atmos, right? Those are two discrete as opposed to just the .2 with 4 speakers. Right.
And I plan to add 2 more to the front. So about maybe 2 feet or so in front of the last ones right now where they are. And so we'll have 6 in the ceiling going forward.
Yeah, so in this room, the way you've got your Atmos set up and your surround, it is like perfect. And they're probably, I've not been in this room, but I would bet there's no difference between this and the Alamo Draft House as far as the experience. You probably have better food too.
I like the Alamo food. It's fun.
Okay, you don't have to make it. Somebody brings it to you.
And yeah, that's one of the nice things is like sometimes it's nice to be waited on, right?
Yeah.
The screen is a Stewart StudioTek 130. It's 150 inch.
Let me go back to the screen.
Sure.
There we go.
It's a 150 inch scope screen. And I'd never had a scope screen before. The previous screen that I had was a 16 by 9, 120 inch screen, and had that one since about 2013. So I wanted to get something bigger, and my dealer said, well, hey, if we can get you a scope screen, you can maintain the same image height they're used to with the 120 inch 16 by 9 screen, but then you'll have the advantage of it being scoped. So anything, shot in a very wide format will be even bigger. And my wife, anytime there's a scope film that we're watching, my wife says it feels like she's in the screen. So, and she doesn't mean that in a bad way, but she feels like it's very immersive,
Very cool.
So.
Do you ever watch any sports or anything in there or television that's 16 by 9?
Yes. And it's...
Sorry, I was going to say, what's that experience like?
It's fine. It looks great. Okay. I really credit the projector of how dark it is, because I was kind of worried, am I going to be bothered by these gray lines in the sides? And
right.
The JVC does such a great job that it looks black to me. I mean, it's okay, black enough that it's not a concern. And then, we were talking about the Lumigen earlier working. Well, the Lumigen takes care of all that for me. I tried to get by when I first bought the projector, like, oh, I'm going to try it just with the lens memory on the projector. And the JVC will do it. I mean, it has different lens memories, but you're talking a lot of potential wear and tear because the projector's got to like readjust for that every time. And it takes over a minute to do that shifting. And the great thing about the Lumigen is if you're watching a disc that has maybe some 16 by 9 content and then switches back to 2.35 to 1 or something, it's doing all that switching right there for you. Immediate, there's no delay. And it makes it work. And that's really what you want after spending all the effort on this. Every one of these panels had to be held up 10 minutes at a time.
Wow. So
for the glue to dry.
Okay, so they're glued onto the ceiling. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they give you a glue. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, this is just a gorgeous room. I really like it. It's clean. It's neat. You have, like you said, the little bit of flair in there to give you a cinema feel, but I really like it.
Well, it's a dream come true. It really is. I look back at all the theaters that we've built in different places over the years, and using living rooms and lofts and basements, and now it's nice.
How long has it been complete? I think you were saying you just recently wrapped it up.
Yeah. So July 13th, I had Jeff Meary. He's a Home Acoustics Alliance calibrator, audio calibrator, come by and put the finishing touches on it and certify that, hey, the audio is great. Everything sounds the way it should. And it's definitely the best sounding my speakers have ever been, which is interesting too, because they've been with me for so long, but now I can, rest comfortably that not only is the video correct, but the audio is correct too. I think I mentioned in email that I'm not such a big audio guy, but I want it to be right. I want,
Right. Well, that is an interesting comment that you've had these for a long time, these speakers in different rooms. You probably had different sources and amplification through it, but you've now say this is the best they've sounded. And that's a really good point, that speakers are something that you don't necessarily have to upgrade. If you buy something good, you could keep that forever. You could upgrade everything around that, but you don't have to upgrade the speakers. And here's something many, many years later, you are now just saying it's hitting its peak.
Yeah, yeah. And it's one of those things too, like the acoustic panels, in doing research and trying to figure out like, how do I want this room to be? A lot of the common wisdom says that you can take great speakers and put them in a crappy room, and you know, they don't sound that great. But you could take crappy speakers and put them in a good room and they sound great. And so the idea being that, you know, if you spend money treating the room, you're going to get more value out of that than perhaps many of the other upgrades that people look to try and do. And so that became interesting to me when I saw that, hey, this company, you know, will do this analysis for you and show you, hey, this is what we would propose. And honestly, I was kind of worried like what it would look like. And my wife is really cool, obviously, but I was kind of wondering, I was like, what is she going to think about this?
Yeah.
Well, I think it looks awesome. She thinks it looks awesome. Then when we've had a housewarming a few weeks ago and everybody loved it. They thought it looked really futuristic and stuff. And so it paid off.
Well, I listen to my music in my office that I record the podcast in, and I can play it pretty loud. And a while ago, I was hearing a lot of harshness, and what it was reflection off of the wall behind where I listened to it. So I just put up a bunch of felt panels, nothing scientific, because I could make this room sound even better if I went and had it all measured and everything. And that improved the sound dramatically, just a few dollars spent on that. So sometimes I'm wondering, do I want to go through and actually have this room professionally calibrated? But you know, I've mentioned on the show that we may be moving to Tennessee, so then it's like, okay, do I do it here? Probably the next house, not this house.
Yeah, well, we're not planning to move anytime soon, so this was definitely
once
the
you're
time
there. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and just I sent you some pictures of this room, what it looked like before we started building into it. But the room was really the only change that we made was there was a parapet wall. It's off to the right now of where you were looking right now. You wouldn't see it, but I mean, that's where it used to be. And it was this parapet wall that served no purpose whatsoever. And once we confirmed that it wasn't load bearing, got that demoed out of there, had the carpet demoed, and then had this carpet put in. And in the process of trying to run wiring for all the speakers, found out that the room is actually a room within a room. And according to my calibrator, he said, you know, you really lucked out. He said, people pay a lot of money for a house like that, or to have that capability in their house. Cause he said, it really helps with, you know, the sound in the room, that you've got this, basically there's hallways on the sides of the room. And then like a space leading out to the front. This room itself sits over the main garage. And yeah, just my calibrator said that whoever designed this room kind of knew what they were doing. And it wasn't advertised this way whatsoever. When we were looking for a house and saw this room, I told my wife, I think I can make this work. And we were measuring it out. We're like, yeah, this will work. But we had no idea that, you know, acoustically it was going to be so sound. And yeah, now apparently.
Was there a window in this room?
No. If you would walk through the wall where the screen is right now, you have about maybe a 7-foot space to a window that faces the outside.
Okay. So it's like an attic crawl space kind of area? Sort
of. And that's what I mean, like a room within a room. It's like this room, and then there's like a shell of a room outside of it that is only accessible right now through the garage. And we're looking maybe to eventually turn that into like a usable space too, because we just had no idea that it was a feature of the house. So.
All right. Well, that is a gorgeous room. And now Robert has shared his equipment list with prices, which I will put in the comments in the section below the title here. And but just for the people who are watching, do you mind sharing how much it cost, how long it took to build the entire thing?
So we got this house in July of last year, and we got our final calibration done on July 13th of this year. So about a year. To get it where it needed to be. And I'd mentioned too that we hit a bit of a snag waiting for, I had to wait for some of the panels to arrive. There was a delay in that, but also we had a builder-induced leak in the house that around March timeframe that put us out of the house for about 2 months while we waited for the builder to address that.
Oh, wow.
So, with those delays taken out, I guess you could comfortably say it probably took 9 to 12 months to get it all where it needed to be.
But like you said, this is your forever home, and this is a room that you will be using quite a bit. It's an entertainer's dream, if you ask me. It's an entertainer's dream. I could just see going up there with some friends, having some whiskey and some hors d'oeuvres, and then going for the feature.
Well, I've got bourbon ready for you, Ara. I hope you visit the Dallas area and check this out sometime.
I'll have to do that. DJ and I joke we're going to do like a tour of the home theaters that we have on the show. Maybe we'll have to add yours to the list for sure.
Hell yeah, come on down.
All right. Any final? Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were saying cost wise. I mean, I had to calculate it when you asked me, like, hey, what's the cost breakdown on this, and it came out to about $145,000 all told.
And that was spread over many years too. Like you said, you've had those speakers for a long time, so it's not like he just wrote a check for that much, and a lot of that's construction cost. So don't let that intimidate you. Start small. If you have a room that is unused, you could just start in by putting in a projector and a screen, and then just building it out from there. You don't have to do this overnight. And I know a lot of people do go your route. They start out, and then just over time they add the pieces.
Yeah, it is hard when someone younger comes by in their 20s and they see all this. They're like, "Oh my gosh, are you super rich?" I'm like, well, no, I just, like you said, I built bit by bit, and this is now the pinnacle of all the home theaters we've ever had. And I've been able to reuse what I can, and like even that curtain, just if I can cannibalize something and reuse it, I will. So.
Well, I have nieces and nephews who kind of comment about the car I have and the stuff that my wife and I do. And I said, here's the trick, guys. I'm in my 60s. I really didn't start spending money till I was in my 50s. Up until then, I was saving and investing. And so that's my advice. And along the way, we still had fun. I mean, my first home theater literally was a Sony television, 4x3, with a Sony receiver and some plastic speakers. And I was happy with that. We're talking like in the 90s. The fact, I still go back to remembering I was watching, what was that, X-Files, and a dog was barking in the background, and it was coming out of the surround speakers. I was so excited about that. Everyone in the room, I said, did you hear that? Did you hear that? So you start like that, and then you build your way up. That's really the best advice. Long game wins.
Yeah. And I think also that if you just jumped right into it, if you had the capability to jump right into it from the get-go when you were young, you wouldn't appreciate it as much.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, you are intimately familiar with every aspect of your theater. There's nothing that's going to go on that you're just not going to know about. And as a result of that, you could fix a lot of your own problems. But if you were to just say, okay, here's a check for $150,000, make this room what it is, it's going to take you a while to figure it out. Something's going to go wrong. You're going to call the guy who did it for you, where you can just say, oh, I just need to tweak this or that. So yeah, agree totally. All right. Any other pieces of advice or information you'd like to share with the viewers?
One thing on calibrators, again, I used Jeff Murray for the audio calibration. He was fantastic. But researching this, and also just at like previous places that I've lived, if you are looking for someone to do audio calibration or even video calibration, unfortunately, a lot of times it seems like folks are tied to a dealership, which I get, where else, unless they do it like as a hobby. But I ran into a lot of things where someone say, yeah, I'll calibrate it if I sell you the equipment. And that was a bit, disheartening, which I get. Like they're trying to sell you on the product, and they'll throw in calibration as well. But I will say that with additional research, and just try to ask around, you can find people that are willing to travel, that don't want to sell you new gear, that will use existing gear that you have and make it sound or look as good as it possibly can.
Perfect. Yeah, good advice. All right, Robert Davis, thank you so much for sharing your home theater with us. And if you like this content, please click like, share it with your friends. If you got any email, send it me, ara@htguys.com. Thank you so much for watching.